All right, so we are good to go, starting the Mars session. Are you there, Claudia? Cool. All right, awesome. Awesome. All right, well, yeah, I mean, we'll see who else gets on here. Right now it's just me and you. But I can at least kind of go through the plan for the agenda so you kind of know what's going to happen. Are you ready for that? Cool. So everything's draft. We can always change it depending on who and how many people we get on the call, etc. So first of all is make sure we get people connected. That's always a key component. I'm gonna check really quickly on the Facebook to see if we get any messages. I doubt we're going to get any, but it's always good to have that open. Wow, what is that? Okay, anyways, here we go. All right, so we haven't got any messages on Facebook, which is good. So we'll see if people have problems getting on, but I'm pretty sure they'll be able to get on if they want to. And sometimes people are late anyways, and we start kind of like 15 minutes early. All right, so going back to the agenda. So the recordings, we have the live broadcast is check. Live broadcast check. And then we can just put the link here. What would the link be? So we go to here. I think we have the live broadcast. Here we go, live broadcast link. So facilitation, depending on how many people get on, we'll do that. So we can start with the introductions. And, if no one gets on, we'll just do it ourselves and go through this ourselves, as practice for the future. But, we should have at least one or two other people get on. Like it wouldn't be surprising. What? Oh no, you did great. You did great. It's we're just not expecting anybody, to come on, except for there was Ben and Tully and and Esther. Esther said she was going to try to come on. Let me check my email real quick just to make sure. Let's see what I have for email here. Cool. All right, good. All right. So we can start with checking in ourselves. Like one of the key things we do for all of our Unity check-ins is what we call our feeling gauge. I don't know if feeling gauge is like the best way to say it, but it's just like 1 to 9 how we're feeling. But this is Jay. I'm here in California. Things are going good. I feel like regardless of how many people get and what happens here today, will be more or less set up for future sessions, which is we're getting really close to like getting things more active. Feeling pretty good, probably like maybe a 7 or so. Yay, Ben, you made it. Oh, maybe other people might think that too. Oh, wow. What do you know? We are 15 minutes early. That's funny. How did we do that? Let's see here. So, I must have done that wrong that time. Mars session says 10 Yeah, so I did 2 different times. It's cool. It happens. I'm wondering. We'll see what it says on the main calendar. Yeah, so maybe we'll get more people in another 10 minutes, which would be good. Yeah, so on the main calendar it says 10:15. Oh, that's the work calendar. Duh. Yeah, so we try to like get the work started 15 minutes before the actual session starts. So yes, you guys are right. It starts at 10:30. Do you want to get on now, or do you want to get on in 10 more minutes? Okay, cool. Well, I was just gonna go. I can go through the agenda. That's what I was doing right now. We were talking about how the introductions work. So we tell like how we're feeling, 1 to 9, and we use that for a couple different reasons, like to gauge like our decision making, like that. Some of the desired outcomes I have for now, and you guys can change these if you want to, is learning about people from around the world, just like introducing each other, learning about each other. General context of our goals for the Unity network, and then have maybe some type of agreement on some of our priorities, like for moving forward. And I did set up a voting form, but I really didn't have time to actually finish anything. If we get a lot of new people, we might want to do a mini intro question and answer. Like right now, we wouldn't be surprised if there is, 1 or 2 other people who get on the call, but you never know. There could be more. We're ready. You did a lot of outreach, didn't you, Ben? Yeah. It's very silly. It might have been too many people, but who knows? Maybe we'll just get a couple. If we get over like 10 to 20 people, then we get into the more confusing component of actually splitting up into smaller groups. So the 3 of us, right? So there's me and Claudia and Ben, right? The 3 of us could easily take on a group, and I would help coordinate all 3 groups. It would be that hard, but if we have to do it, we'll be ready, and we'll do it as like a practice if we get to that point. So anyways, we'll probably do like a mini Q&A with like the entire group, no matter how many people are there, since most people probably won't have any clue what the Unity network is and what we're doing. But we wouldn't want to spend more than like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes on that. It depends. If people really want to spend more time on Q&A, we can. We always have everybody agree to the methodology or the terms of involvement that I'm calling them, or terms of participation. So we can go through that and see kind of like where we're at, if we want to change things. And that also includes the smaller than 10 groups. We'll go through the entire agenda with everybody. The only 4 really topics I have is the basic understanding of the comprehensive plan, and then that leads right into the Mars plan. And then for the end, we would talk about in 1 year when we want to publish the comprehensive plan and how we can prepare for that. So those are like the main topics that I have brought up. Like that's kind of like what the Mars session is for, is talking about how to finalize and like get the publication of the comprehensive plan. The other thing I have in here is FORMAP, which is basically fundraising ... promotions. So the F stands for fundraising, the P stands for promotions, and everything else in between is all related. So those are the only 4 topics I have right now.
That's good to get started.
Cool. Wrapping up, next steps, tasks, in case people volunteer to do stuff. This might also include for people interested in working. We also have like the other sessions we have. Sessions. So this could be, let's see here. Always good to have the links ready. But I think that's pretty much it. Does that sound like a pretty good plan and agenda? Is there a document with what? Oh yeah, there's an agenda. I'm going through the agenda. I posted it to the Facebook group as well as where else did I send it? I don't know. Don't me email it to you? I could email you the link. Okay, let's double check that because it's very important. We want everyone to be able to have the link to the group, to the pad. So so yeah, it says it says you go to the Mars Ellipse session, right? I don't know if I actually I didn't post it to the actual Facebook group. I posted it to the event, the Facebook event. So I'll paste it to the Facebook group as well, just to make sure it's there. Are you able to find it now? Ben? Yeah, I can also put it in the description of the Facebook event. I noticed, yeah, it's the Titan pad, yeah. I noticed that you also seem to have done some outreach for next year's Mars session. Is that true? A little bit. Yeah, there's only technically 2. Oh no, we got 3 from it. Oh yeah. There's a dozen of or more of all the different events, but as far as just the Mars session, there's only the 2. All right, so I put the link in the description for the event as well. So cool. So now it's just a matter of seeing if anyone gets on, anyone else gets on. So did you guys have any other questions or ideas? Cool. As far as just checking over everything, I think everything is working. I'm not 100% about it, but if I go here, okay, so it says live control room. Let's see. So it says my streaming status is okay. So it looks like our broadcast is active, which is good. And the recording is already going on for, oh, that's actually a good thing to remind people is that we are recording. So, hey, Ben, depending on what happens today, if we have action-packed recording, the actual recording for the conference call, which I believe is the one that you download in MP3 format, that one is gonna start like literally 2 hours after the recording. Does that make sense? Like it's like me and Claudia have been working for 2 hours and we recorded the whole thing. So it's just going right into the Mars session without stopping. Yeah. So if you download it, you're looking for it, you're like, what's going on here? And it's because it just one big long recording. Cool. So yeah, I'd say in I say in 1 minute. I mean, we shouldn't expect for tons of other people to get on because it just doesn't really work that way. But I think that we should definitely get started with the three of us. Because with three of us, we have the ability to do a lot um, and get things kind of envisioned for the future. So shall we go ahead and get started? Cool. Awesome. All right. So the recording's all good. So I'm gonna we're gonna do like group facilitation, but I'll kind of help us out along as well. If that's all good with you guys. That sound good with the facilitation? Okay, cool. So let's check in. I think it's like good to spend a little extra time, talking about what you do and where you're from and sort of your perspective in the world. And we definitely want to hear more from you, Claudia, about kind of what you're doing and why you decided to get involved and everything. Claudia is in Peru for. Anyways, why don't we start with Ben? And you're also going to want to do your how you're feeling between 1 and 9. Awesome. Cool. This is Jay. I'm doing pretty well. I did notice that there was a couple new votes on the social entrepreneur stuff, and we do want to hear more about the social entrepreneurs in the human union if you want to elaborate. But anyways, I am very happy, doing pretty well. Definitely been busy, getting everything set up for the Mars session, but it's also been, I've been doing this for so long that it's just everything is more or less in place, although there's probably an additional 3 times as much work that I would love to have done that I just didn't have time for. But I got a lot done. You guys will see. I'm really excited to present to the two of you guys like all the different work that I did and the vision that's coming together. I'm really excited. It's really cool. So, and I'm hopefully you guys will be really excited as well. So from there, I'm in California as well, here in Stanford, and just excited about kind of stabilizing things and seeing a world that we can make that works for everybody. So that kind of sums it up in a sentence. Anyways, I'll be explaining a lot about all the things I'm doing, so I want to hear more from you guys. So let's jump over to Claudia.
Hi. Yes, my name is Claudia Pacheco. I'm calling from Peru. And I guess you can say I'm feeling okay. Sort of still relatively new to all of this. Still trying to learn a few things regarding just how to manage the whole
Cool. Let's start with the 1 to 9. So you want to tell how you're feeling and how you're doing in between like 1 and 9?
Like right now?
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
I would say
And it's not just like how you're feeling, it's like your focus. A 7? Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of like it's
even though we've been already talking for a while, I mean, I still feel pretty focused, excited to get on person.
nice. Yeah. And I mean, there's the 3 of us. It should go pretty quick, but typically the March session wouldn't go longer than like an hour. The series sessions could probably go a little longer, but yeah. If there was more people, it would get a little longer, but it's with the 3 of us, it should go pretty quick. Should go pretty good. Cool, yeah. So, nice. More questions for, let's start with you, Claudia. So we got like the basics that you're interested and, you know, intrigued with the whole Uni network, and you're, you know, getting involved. And it is going to take, it could potentially take years to really learn and understand the different general contexts and components of, you know, how the Uni network works. And you did great today, by the way. You were like amazing. You busted out on the Facebook. You busted out on all of the hotline stuff. So that was really good. And just so you know, Ben, like Claudia has signed up to staff the Unity hotline for a half hour every Fridays. And I mean, obviously some Fridays aren't going to work out, but you know, just, you know, we'll see how that goes. So we'll have, you know, at least once a week we'll have the Unity hotline open. But soon, hopefully, we'll have the Unity hotline open like all the time, every day. But anyway, so I want to hear more about, like, you know, what do you do in Peru? Where are you in Peru? You know, what do you do? Like, are you a student? Like, what goals do you personally have? Because like the Unity network is not about getting people to just come and help us. Like, the reason why we're going to have, you know, potentially, you know, a dozen, if not dozens of people who come to our sessions is because we're actually here to help people with meeting their goals as well. Like, for example, we'll hear more about what Ben is doing, and we can talk about how we can help him, as well as learning more about what you're doing. So I'd be very interested to kind of hear, like, kind of your background and what you do in Peru and your goals. You can keep it simple, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. I basically, well, here in Peru, I live in Lima, so that's our capital, and basically, I work as a virtual assistant. Assist the also work with, well, I would like to set up an NGO education, which I think is very important. But also, but you know, it's still a work in progress. We're not launched either, but it's definitely something that is still in the early stages of planning. And yeah, I mean, apart from that, I just figured out that I don't repeating myself here. So yeah, it just basically that's really what I'm doing.
Great.
I'm also working then I also did my internship there, Georgia, for a while at the Carter Center. And this was back in the day when I was planning on pursuing diplomacy as a career, but then that plan fell through. And I just really decided that I wanted to focus on, setting up this NGO, which is, in my case, it's also, it's going to take a while. It's not something you build overnight. So I understand how it goes in that sense. And yeah, I mean, I'm learning a lot from you guys, so that's really great. And hopefully in the future, maybe we can even work together, I mean, like both, if I ever get this set up, yeah, it would be great.
Oh,
Work together.
cool.
NGOs.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Claudia. I'm sure Ben has got lots of things that are buzzing as well as me, so I'm gonna respond. I'm really excited about hearing that. And just so you know, Ben, it's the first time. Oh no, that was an interesting tone. We might have lost Ben. Hey Ben, are you still here?
Hello?
That was such a weird noise.
Jay?
Claudia, can you hear me? There, one sec. Hey, Claudia? Claudia, can you hear me?
I don't know. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
So we lost you on the conference call line.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to try to call back in using I think it's the voice over IP. Also, you can call in directly on the Google Hangout. So I have you on the other Google Hangout, and I sent you the link. Excuse me, let me get some water.
Jay, I can actually hear you a lot better right now from like you just
Cool.
using this Google app. Whereas the online conference, for some reason, I can't hear you all that well. I don't know if you would prefer I call you on the other line. But...
Oh yeah, we're totally fine. But what I do prefer is that this is for you as well, Ben. On the top of the pad, I link the Google Live broadcast hangout. So right now, me and you, Claudia, are talking through the old Google Hangout. So if you clicked the new Google Hangout, it would put you directly onto the live broadcast, so that when we're recording and broadcasting it, we'll be able to hear you much better as well. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Claudia?
Yeah.
So what we want to do is want to get everybody on the live Google broadcast, and then that will allow us to make sure that your audio stream is directly going into live broadcast as opposed to through the computer. But either way, it should be fine. But do you have the link for that? Did you find it? No. I put it in the old, like the Google Hangout that you have. I put it in there, so the link is there, as well as the top of the pad that we're using for notes. Do you see it, Ben?
Okay.
Are you on the pad?
I'm trying to connect right now.
If you want to, you can go onto the pad and click onto the live broadcast for the Google Hangout, right? And that will, as well as the phone, if you wanted to do that. You don't have to. It just might sound better for the live broadcast. It's always going to be a challenge to, how would you say, interconnect all the audio streams, but in the future it'll be much easier. Anyways, I think we're fine. Are you good, Claudia?
I'm trying to load this page, but it's taking forever.
Okay. Well, let's not worry about it. I mean, as of now, everything looks fine. I have everybody on everything, and the audio should be picking up at least somewhat. So, Ben, can you still hear me? Ben? Some reason the volume is really low. All right, try again. Oh, wait, I need a speaker. All right, there's Ben. Hello?
Hi.
Okay, cool. All right, so now people on Google Hangout should be able to hear you too. So, all right, so let's get back into our agenda. One thing I wanted to mention is just responding to Claudia, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to Ben because this is like pretty exciting. One thing is that what we do as a Unity network is that we actually like directly help people with their projects, right? So if you want to start an NGO, and Ben helps with this too because he set up a whole incubator where we incubate nonprofits. So we currently have a 501c3 nonprofit NGO it's set up in California here in the United States, right? But we can sponsor people's programs anywhere in the world. So as long as you're doing like an international NGO project, we would be able to sponsor that. And education is literally what the most of all of the nonprofit work we do right now is educational. We work in about, I don't know, 5 to 7 school districts and probably like 10 different high schools and middle schools and elementary schools here in the San Francisco Bay Area mainly. So anyway, so that is one thing that we can collaborate with you on is learning more about the type of education reform you want, the documentations, and actually setting up on how to do like either a spin-off or another type of like sponsored program. And then we can help you with fundraising and as well as the whole 9 yards on crowd fundraising and things like that. So that's one thing. The other thing, which is very, very exciting, which rang a little bell for me, is the idea specifically of that you originally wanted to be a diplomat. That's really exciting because like, the more you'll learn about the Unity Network, and like what I put on the Facebook page is that we're community and government. The idea is that we're trying to connect the community to a global governance structure that is going to evolve our entire decision-making systems. So our whole people's parallel governance structures and the systems that we're putting together are very related to recreating global governance to a way that actually works for people, as opposed to right now, it's basically works for corporations and people with lots of money. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can collaborate. I'm really glad that you shared some of your own personal interests. And I think there's no reason why we couldn't work together. And that the hope would be that we start collaborating and working together, not in the future, but right now, today. No time like the present.
Well said. I look forward to it, and I'm really I'm really grateful for everything, for the opportunity, and also for the opportunity of just again collaborating on these projects. It's good to know that you offer these options. That you can sponsor and you can help raise or fundraise. Fundraising and stuff. So that's pretty great and amazing. And it's good to know.
Definitely cool. So I'll turn it back over to Ben. I'm sure he might want to respond to some of what he heard from you, and then also you can share a little bit more about the Human Union and his World Players work and what he does for incubating and accelerating different projects.
Sure. Yeah, it's great to hear that you're interested in diplomacy, and that I often describe the Unity Network as a diplomatic endeavor, especially because of the people parallel government that Jay mentioned, which I view as, which I refer to as citizen diplomacy. And it's very interesting to me because my mentor, when I was living abroad in Vienna, is a famous diplomat who's been nominated for the facilitating role and bring together all the influencers and they just help them talk without getting into fist fights. And then they go back to their countries and they have an influence with their influencers, and it produces better results from the bottom up rather than the top down. So anything I can do to carry on that legacy from him is exciting. And regarding the NGO, it's relevant to what Jay and I started called the Human Union think tank. The Human Union is an international movement starting in Australia to reject identity politics like nationality and religion in favor of global citizenship and solidarity. And our contribution to the Human Union is the think tank, which facilitates citizenship in the for-profit, non-profit, and public. So the results, the outcomes of the think tank are documentation, strategic documents, policies, and so in addition to helping the incubator with setting up your nonprofit in terms of developing your program, the think tank would be to have a focus group and create nonprofit. Addition to producing documentation, the best ideas for action or practice that come out of the think tank are accelerated. So if it's a nonprofit, we have the World Pride Foundation and the Community Life Network. And we'll have additional content in the future to sponsor and accelerate the growth of a nonprofit project. Then we have investor for-profit partners who can accelerate the growth of a for-profit startup that facilitates citizenship. And finally, the Unity Network is available to help government-related movements or conventions be accelerated.
Cool.
Aside from that, I have my other involvements that are relevant are World Pride Ventures, the main accelerator of the for-profit project, and being accelerated, and it processes information about companies' social impact, environmental impact, while incentivizing ethical shopping. I want to go to Peru, considering doing a woofing program there and worldwide, a farming apprenticeship on an organic farm.
Awesome. So I think it's I think we got a pretty good basic rundown of what people are working on, different ways we could potentially collaborate together in the future, some of the follow-up next steps there as far as like what things we might want to prioritize and work on, and then also just mentioning that overall, this space, these sessions that we're setting up, like, one of the main things the Unity Network does is set up these global sessions to connect people globally, is really just to share our ideas and share our thoughts, and then try to figure out new and creative ways of collaborating and supporting each other. So I think we're pretty good on that. I don't think we need to go too much into the mini intro Q&A. But I did create the beginning of a vote section that I'll talk about more later about how we can list all the different ideas and help prioritize them. Some of the things that I've heard from our introductions that we definitely want to start prioritizing is, sponsorship. seems like a thing that we want to continue to have as a high priority, as well as other components. So maybe even add that to the topics. Sponsorship. Cool. And then also there's the parallel governance. Do you think that covers pretty much everything, or was there anything else that came up that I missed?
I think you covered everything.
Okay, and so as far as Claudia, are you on the pad, Claudia? Are you here? Let's see.
Wait.
I don't see anyone else actually on the pad.
I was a minute ago,
okay.
but I got disconnected, so let me reconnect.
Cool. Well, yeah, if you can help take notes, that'd be great to have a little help taking notes at the bottom of the pad. So anyways, let's go on to, we can skip the mini intros because all of us pretty much know the basics of the Unity network. We don't seem to have anyone new, but we're gonna skip this. So then we have the methodology. This would be like the terms of participation. Claudia, do you want me to kind of go over the basics for you real quick? It's really simple. Pretty much the overall methodology is to kind of make our systems and processes as open, transparent, inactive, and as empowering as possible, right? So that's more or less what our methodology does. And so we ask people to kind of sign on in the terms of service context based on all of our policies and guiding principles, including our governance. So you can read more about it there too. It's pretty cool. But one of the things that we try to teach in this component is that our basic decision-making structure, which is the same idea. It's like 0 to 9, with 6, 7, and 8 being yes votes, right? And our goal as an organization is always coming to what we call supportive consensus. So when you look at the idea of typical consensus, it's what we call willing consensus. You're willing to go along with it, right? So that would be a typical consensus. That would be around a 7, right? And so an 8 would be supportive consensus, and a 9 would be congruency, which is very, very rare. And so that means you're not voting for yourself, you're voting for everybody. Does that make sense as far as like our voting procedure?
Yeah.
Cool. So for the methodology, we would want to all vote between 0 and 9 on how we feel about it. And obviously you haven't read much, but I gave you the basic rundown. I would probably vote like I don't know, I'm still around an 8. I still need to let some work. Wait, not an 8. 7. I'm gonna say 7.5. But do you want to just we're just practicing here, practice voting. Where would you vote for the terms of involvement? Claudia?
Yeah, sorry. I would say 7.
7. And Ben? You're on an 8 already. Okay, cool. Nice. So yeah, the terms of involvement and participation are very interactive. I mean, people can change them as needed, but we do want to make sure people are on the same page. Anyone who doesn't agree to the terms of participation with the Unity Network, let's say we had the next Mars session, there's 30 people on it, and everybody basically says that they don't want to agree to the terms. We would still do the session, it just wouldn't be a Unity Network session. Does that make sense? Cool. So I don't think we're going to be able to go through all of this agenda stuff. I'm going to kind of just do an overview, and then we might even be able to jump into the wrap-up pretty soon. Yeah, so let's, I'm going to change this up a little bit, okay? All right, so this is what we're going to do. This is what I propose. So I propose that we do, we talk about planning for 5 to 10 minutes. Let's just say 5 minutes, 5 minutes plus. That's going to be for the comprehensive plan, the Mars plan, and then the prep for the plan publishing. Then we can talk about sponsorship and parallel governance projects for 5 minutes. And then we can talk about fundraising and promotion for 5 minutes. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds
I think that'll cover. So this first part, I'm just going to kind of give like a little introduction to the planning process and why we're doing it and what it really entails and means. So I'm really excited about this component. And again, not only are we doing this just for the 3 of us, we're also broadcasting this like online. I wonder if it's possible to see if there's, I doubt anyone's actually actively watching it, but you can find out if they are. And I believe there are not people. People have watched the previous sessions that we have broadcast, you know, less than 10 people or whatever, but it's still, you know, people are watching it 100 hours or something. It's probably more than I would expect people to be watching it. But anyways, this one's going to be a lot more exciting than our last one. So the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is basically the overall, like, ongoing, long-term plan of all plans, right? So the idea of this is that we can literally have as many sub-plans part of the comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan is, you know, 3 primary things, which I'll go through. And again, this is for the Unity network, and it's kind of like the main primary documented publication of the Unity network. And the reason why it's important is because, you know, there is no guarantee that we are going to be successful in launching and having the Unity network be an active, successful network with lots of funding and all that kind of stuff. And we're still in what we call the pre-launch phase. We haven't even launched yet. So without going into a lot of details, the long-term goal is that even if we close down the Unity network, you know, we lose all our funding, nothing actually is successful, we would still end up with a book, basically this publication, that will document everything that we did, all the ideas, all the concepts, methodology, and vision for future generations so that they can basically pick up where we left off. Does that make sense? Yeah, so even if nothing else is successful with the actual Unity network, the goal is that we still have a document, which is the comprehensive plan, that can live beyond the actual organization, regardless of whether the organization is successful. So there's 3 parts to the actual comprehensive plan. One is the novel or the storyboards. This is basically a whole, you know, it starts with indigenous, the indigenous Maya, and how the whole relationship between, you know, Western cultures and indigenous cultures has led to kind of where we are today, and how we're part of a very, very long running stream of conscious evolution. and the idea is to show the goals of the Unity network through an experiential story. So that's why the actual story or the novel is so important, is because you actually experience the goals of the Unity network in something that could literally become a book or a novel or even a movie. The ideas and projects is literally just the list of the ideas and projects is directly related to the community elections based on how people vote. The entire comprehensive plan is interactive, and the ideas and projects that are top priorities are continually being updated. And then the 3rd section is the methodology. And the methodology, we already talked about a little bit, but it's really important for people to be able to actively engage in. So are there any questions about the comprehensive plan and why we're doing it and what is the general point of the comprehensive plan? Cool. All right. So anyways, I just want to give a really basic overview. It's still in the works. You know, my hope would be that in 1 year we'll be ready to publish, and we'll talk about that in a second. So one component of the comprehensive plan is that on each of the primary planetary sessions, as well as even some of the other time cycles that we use, we are going to be creating what you could call mini plans. Obviously, the Mars plan is quite a big plan because it's actually, you know, almost an entire year. But anyways, like, you know, some of the other plans that we create might be a little bit shorter. And that forces us, like the comprehensive plan has everything. So it's like, it's almost too much, right? So when we're looking at a Mars plan or even like, you getting towards like a Mercury plan, we're forced to really prioritize and only put the most essential things in there because it's only what we can complete in 1 year or the X number of months that take part of that particular plan. So I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but you can link, I have the link there. So this is what we would call the second Mars plan. The Mars plan itself, this is the second Mars session. The Unity network started its pre-launch a year ago. So that's why we're at this level. As you can see here, this is very, very preliminary. I've been just getting this started. But it gives a general concept of the goals and where we want to get to. The comprehensive plan as well is not done and ready for publication, just the same. But at least this gives a general concept of where we're going. So the first section is basically gives an introduction, what the whole Mars session is. And then we're going to be looking at, the priorities and like the vision for where we would want to be in 1 year out at the next Mars section. And we can actually look back at this. So this would actually be a proposal. And so we can actually vote on this now and see where we are right now in terms of like putting it together. In addition to that, right here, we have the ability to click and vote on the different ideas. So this is, again, still preliminary and coming together. It's not a perfect vote, but everyone can put their name and their voting code. And then you just put, we have all the types of projects, our core admin internal programs and projects, our Unity programs and projects, including the Unity Day, the People's Parallel Governance, Unified Comprehensive Plan, all the different products that we have going, as well as our internal network programs and sponsored projects, right? So there is a lot that we have going on, and so it's very important to prioritize. And so we just basically prioritize everything between 0 and 9. In addition to this, we're going to be adding some of our external projects and coalitions. So we try to take everything going on across the world and kind of give it a snapshot. This would include the work we're doing with the Human Union, World Players, as well as like different human rights activities, Black Lives Matter, Fight for 15, global minimum income, global minimum wages, civil rights, gay rights, women's rights, peace. There's also a lot of stuff going on right at this moment in the kind of anti-terror things. I've been doing a lot of research in terms of what is the actual opposite of anti-terror. One of the words that's coming up is elevationism as opposed to terrorism. So that's an interesting idea, and the idea of the truth movement, disclosure movement, peace movement. So anyways, we are part of a huge network across the world, and our goal is to prioritize how we want to help all these other movements, because the Unity network itself is not necessarily focused on just our own stuff. The purpose of all of our own internal projects are to support whatever the biggest global movements are of our time. So the Mars plan, as well as the prioritization process for the Mars plan, can help us do that. Cool. So I think that's pretty much it on the Mars plan. The idea is to document our vision, our goals of where we want to be. This can include pretty much anything. Just so you guys know, there's 3 plans that come within the Mars plan. There's the Earth plan. The secondary plan will lead directly into Unity Day, which ends with the primary session, which is Unity Day. And then there's going to be 2 Venus plans that come in between here. So that's pretty much it for the Mars plan. So I want to hear if you guys have questions. And we also want to vote on this. I would vote and say that it's definitely a 7 because it's not done yet. But so probably was a little overtime there, but how did I do?
I'm going through the Google form.
Ooh, you're voting?
Well, there's some things I don't know about, like
Ooh, yeah, do you have a question?
the core admin project. I'm not familiar.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
For the back one.
Yeah, part of me felt like I should put the core admin programs and projects at the end instead of the beginning, because they're just not as important. I mean, the people think the thing that people like voting on are all the external programs and projects, right? But the internal programs are just as important. Basically, you have the board and admin supporting all of the different organizational structures. Session support is what we're doing right now. So Claudia is like staffing this session to help support our session systems as we get more people involved. If we have 20, 30, 50 people on, we're going to need quite a lot of session support to have successful sessions. Our finances and budgets, worker volunteer coordination, the sponsorship services, which we're actually going to talk about in a little bit. So yeah, fundraising, marketing, recruitment. It's just like our internal systems to make everything run. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, all of these will have links eventually. Remember, everything that I'm showing you guys here with the Mars plan is all preparation, right? Remember, everything's in pre-launch still. This is like for next year. Hopefully we'll have a completed Mars plan and a completed Mars election, right? So moving forward here, we can use this as a template for the series. Like the next big session is going to be the series session, which happens at the beginning of January. And we're combining the series session with the Earth session. It's pretty exciting, actually. And the series session only happens once every 2 years. So it's a pretty big deal. The next one after that will be the Jupiter session, will be the next biggest session, and that's going to happen in 2017. And then in 2018 is the Saturn session. So those are all happening kind of consecutively. So it goes Mars, Ceres, Jupiter, and then Saturn in 2018. And in those 3 steps are like the biggest planning and visioning components of it. And then once you hit Saturn, it'll be a while till we get to the next biggest thing for at least our solar system. But as you guys will see in the future, one of our priorities is our galactic calendars. So anyways, I'm going to vote a 7 on the Mars plan because I think it did get the basic understanding across. A lot of it. If you guys want to vote, you guys can always abstain. Claudia, do you want to vote between 0 and 9?
Yes. Sorry. I think 8.
An 8. Wow, that's really high. Okay, Claudia's 8. And Ben?
We're voting on all of it at once.
We're voting on the entire Mars plan. We're not voting on the comprehensive plan. We skipped over that. But we're just voting on the entire of the Mars plan. This would be the second Mars plan.
I'll give it a 7.
Okay. And just so you guys know for the future, and you can always change your votes if you want to, but a 5 would basically be like a neutral abstention. A 6 would be a positive abstention. So both a 5 and a 6 are still approving things, just kind of abstaining. And then a 7 is the minimum for basically willing consensus, that you agree to something. Okay, cool. So the only other thing here is really like I have a million ideas of what could need to be done to get ready for 1 year out. Obviously, recruitment is key. Fundraising is key. All that stuff is key, and we're going to cover that in the format section, which is the fundraising and promotions and recruitment. But are there other things you guys think would be really important for helping people engage in the, creating the Mars plan and creating future plans, and how we can include, for example, making sure, for example, your NGO activities are part of the plan, and making sure that the human union is part of the plan, I think would help support people's excitement about it, right?
Marketing is so important.
Cool, yeah. So are there any other things you guys want to add as far as next steps for getting ready for next year? So this would be 1 year from now. The next Mars session is on the 29th of October, 2016. And I know it's really hard for us to look out that far, but that's part of what the Unity Network is trying to, force us to do. It's kind of like get us to think bigger. We're always focused on where we're going to get food, what are we going to do tomorrow, how are we going to get, pay rent next week, So trying to think out a year in advance is really healthy for building stability and conscious evolution.
Well, Claudia just mentioned marketing, and I've been thinking for a while that the human union, that the Unity Network should consider becoming a partner of World Players, and then we can start doing the mass marketing strategies that we do for all of the projects
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes, 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 and yes. I mean, one, the Unity network is obviously working, collaborating with role players like already, right? So we want to continue that. You know, the most complicated thing, of course, is that we're working on so many different projects that it's just, you know, how would you say, it's been difficult to figure out how to connect together, right? But if you just take the Unity network in and of itself as an individual thing, you know, maybe we could start on the level of just looking at the Unity network as an individual thing equal to all other ideas and things, and that you could help with just the main overall Unity network social media campaigns and information. Like that could be one possible avenue.
The very simple, like, version is just to put Unity network on the list of nonprofit projects, and then get your social media login, and just add you to a list of accounts that I'm already going through every day and following and unfollowing. And, that's basically it. Like, and as long as there's not a monetary deal, I consider that a partnership, which legitimizes listing it. And since the incubator only helps organizations that aren't nonprofits so far, like the Unity network lack of an organizational entity that encapsulates it is actually what justifies incubating it.
Well, the Unity network is technically an entity. I mean, we have many different entities. It's a MO, right? There's the Unity MO, which has, you know, 5 different legal entities that are within it, including the whole, you know, for-profit branch. But overall, the Unity network is a nonprofit because it's not for profit and it owns all of the for-profit branches, right? And obviously, you know about some of the more complicated components of our structure, internal structures. But yeah, so anyways, I think we can work something out. It would not be a problem to get you access to some of like the main Unity network or other social media accounts, you know, to help out with marketing. Obviously, you did a huge help with the doing the marketing for the Mars session. We might also want to look at, you know, prioritizing, you know, what types of marketing we want to do and how to connect. You know, we'll talk more about that in the format section. I guess we can just jump to format right now since we're already talking about it. So just so you guys know, excuse me, format stands for fundraising, outreach, recruitment, marketing, advertising, and promotions. So the direction I've been going is looking at, you know, blast. Like a lot of what you're talking about is mass blasting and getting as many people as we can on social media and engaging people across the internet, right? And I call that blast format, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take it a step further in how we can really get effective fundraising and promotions going on. And so basically the next level below blasting would be network format. An example would be Occupy. Another example would be, you know, what do you call it? You know, there's different political networks as well as, let's use Transform. Transform, I can't remember. There's a Transform network that's out there. There's a lot of different networks that you can use. There's also like Black Lives Matter is a whole big, huge network in the United States. The next level would be organizational. And then you have group. And then you have individual. So the individual is kind of the direction that I'm going, is really targeting individual specific people and trying to get them engaged and involved as we build up our systems. I got a text from Tully. He was planning on being on this call, but he wasn't able to. But that, you know, we would have had 4 people if he was on as well. So I really want to create a balanced approach for our marketing and advertising And that needs to include focusing on individuals, groups, as well as organizations. And then maybe doing a little bit of networks in Blast. I mean, I don't know. Let's hear what you think, Claudia, about just basic strategies for, you know, fundraising, recruitment, marketing, promotions. Claudia, are you still there? Huh, maybe we lost her. Yeah, it looks like we lost Claudia. Hopefully. So anyway, do you have any other thoughts on like how to balance individual targeting versus like mass blasting and everything in between?
Individual.
Well, because for example, we blasted out this particular call to 1,000 people, and we didn't really get anybody really.
Yeah, that would be better. Like, one strategy is to say that each person, you know, needs to recruit 10 people by the next meeting. And as long as you do that year after year, you're guaranteed a high escalation.
What about, you know, as a group, for example, me, you, and Claudia, right now, picking 5 people or 10 people that we would specifically target as a group, as opposed to each one of us going out all by ourselves and trying to target 10 people individually.
Well,
So for example, in that context, the direction that I'm going is, you know, right now is what we call the Americas section, right? So this is the Americas time period. So you're signed up for that as well as Tully. And so I think if we keep pushing that globally and get people to sign up for specific time sessions, and then during that time session, we target those specific people who say they may be available for that particular time, might be a really good way to get, you know, to do it in a context of a group where we know which individuals who have the highest probability of being involved at that particular time. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't also do the blasting and we shouldn't also do, you know, other strategies, but I think it is important to, you know, create a balanced strategy.
yeah, is the goal to expand the number of nodes?
No, the cool thing about the Unity network is that it all exists singularly across the entire globe. So, you know, most people would think about a node being its own separate thing, but in the Unity network, it's actually not. So the easiest way to think about the idea of a Unity node in the context of Unity sessions, because all sessions and all people happen simultaneously across the entire world. If it doesn't happen at the specified time, for example, right now is the Mars session, it's not part of the Unity network. Does that part make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can still be part of, you know, the context of what the Unity network is. It's just not part of the Unity sessions. It's not part of the actual highest level decision making, right? So anybody can create any meeting they want to and work on any project they want to, and they can be sponsored by the Unity network. It just wouldn't be part of the internal structure of the core. It wouldn't be the core of the Unity network. That's a better terminology, right? So the core sessions of the Unity network all happen simultaneously across the world at the same time. So let's say we had 30 people on this call, or let's say in a year on the next Mars call, we have 30 people. We would split up into 3 groups, because each one would need to be a little less than 10 people, right? And those 3 groups would each be a node. Does that make sense? So you could have a local Stanford group that even met in person, but it would meet at the same time as the global organization, and it could be its own node because it's focusing on local issues in the global context, And so each node can have its own focus, but it still is meeting at the same time and still interconnected. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was just thinking that the lowest hanging fruit might be the social movements that we're targeting in the Unity network, which are already organizing, and they would simply need to follow the protocol whenever they want to participate as a node, and continue to do what they're doing outside of it.
Totally. And I think that that you're definitely right. The amount of the sheer volume, like the thing that hits hardest for me is like I literally have 10,000 emails, connections to thousands of organizations, both through Occupy and all the people involved with that, as well as the sustainability movements and many other movements, right? And it's just so overwhelming to even get started. I mean, mainly it's on one side is the resource issue. It's like the monetary stuff gets in the way, where how do you even, like, my server maximum can deal with 500 emails. Even that is huge. Going on Google, you're 10 emails at a time max. So you're just looking at hundreds and hundreds of hours to even send a single email. So it's like we almost need $100 servers where you're in getting different types of email programs, whether it's like $10 a month or whatever it is, to actually be able to coordinate that level of outreach and marketing. So anyways, the point is that we haven't launched yet. Once we launch, it won't be very hard to get a lot of people on these calls. And for me, it's just not really, the goal right now isn't necessarily to get lots of people on the calls, because I don't necessarily think the calls is really where we get the fundraising and engagement happening. I think that kind of happens beforehand and afterwards. But anyways, I think we have a really good general concept, and we just need to keep experimenting.
Yeah. Can we get volunteers to take and then like our cereals for sale, have them table, and sign people up and sell the cheater.
I missed that point. You want to say it again?
Like strategy.
Physical tabling, like local? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing physical tabling and stuff like that. I mean, for me, the main focus is like just pulling together the network and volunteers and staff to help support the direct, tabling. I want to go to farmers markets. I want to go to events at Stanford and just be out there with flyers and sign-up sheets and ballots that people can vote on, and just engage people and have discussions with people at all these physical locations. I mean, just, it probably would be like, okay, the amount of time and effort I put to get, for example, just this, like the Mars plan set up and the Mars session and all the outreach we did for all that stuff, it would probably be that times 3 to have the flyer set up and the stickers and, all the different specific details for the field fundraising to do a big fundraising campaign, right? So, but anyways, it's in the works, and that's all definitely can happen in the next year, between now and the next Mars session.
I mean, showing pictures of the stuff is one thing, but having the inventory, it's almost like when you have it, it will come.
Well, I mean, creating inventory, I mean, we can print stickers, we can make paper flags. So, like I've shown you some of my paper flags that people like, but creating actual inventory of getting shirts and, other products that are a little more, and actually having inventory, there's just no way I could do that under the current budgetary constraints.
Yeah.
So we could have, like, I mean, I can't even print a single flag, with our current budget. I mean, obviously we could, but it's just not the top priority right now. For me, the top priority is engagement, getting people involved. But slowly, it doesn't have to be, we don't need to spend, 10 hours, sending out tons and tons and tons of Facebook invites and things like that. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but you know, it's however we want to do it. One question I had for you is with past Facebook events, is it better to kind of change the date and try to get them engaged for future Facebook events? I mean, what do you do with that?
I would do that, yeah.
So to like use some of the old Facebook events for future Facebook events?
Yep.
Yeah, I really dislike Facebook in general because it's just a mess. And there's so many different things that don't work the way that I would like them to. It's very constraining, but you know, it's important to have all of the events there, you know? So let's say like the full moons, it's like you want all the full moons on Facebook, so they all have to be separate events, right? So then the question is like, how do you use an old event and change it into a new event if the new event already exists? Or do you just skip them? You know, you could take an old event and put it 3 out. So for example, this year's Mars session, we could use and change the event to kind of jump and skip over next year's Mars and do it for 2 years from now. Or we could just delete the new Mars session and use this one. I don't know, or just have 2.
Yeah, I would reuse it. I think that's a cool strategy.
But to use it like 2 years from now, or to do both of them for next year, we could just have 2 Facebook events that both have for next year.
Since you're already creating it, I would just skip the year.
Skip a year. Yeah. Well, anyway, so we'll figure all that out. Not a big deal. Cool. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm working on a ton of different things. Like, I'm really excited. I feel like probably, you know, it's mid-November right now. Let's double check. Okay, it's towards the end of November. I mean, it would be. I would feel like I would need some serious help to really engage in a big time fundraising campaign for the holidays. Because that would give us like 10 to maximum 15 days to really put something together for both field fundraising as well as marketing. Like even trying to do something for Black Friday, you know, or Cyber Monday or whatever. I mean, we'll be able to send out the link for the Unity store, but to kind of put together a specific campaign, it would be difficult. So I don't know. Do you see what I mean? Like, I mean, I just don't know how much of a priority it can be without having more commitment and like really wanting to figure out how to make that happen.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I do think that the success in fundraising will rely on the brand recognition. And so even if it doesn't make us any money, going to activist events that are inclusive other than one-dimensional, where there's various social movements that are getting money in the same much, would be a great way to spread awareness, giving out some cheap signs that can make it onto the news and that can make it onto people's Facebook, Twitter accounts with posting selfies and so forth. And little by little, it can start to unite all these disparate causes. So if we really do practice our value proposition in order to succeed, if you know it is about unifying social movements, then you simply need to unify social movements in order to succeed.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So for me, it's like the core central, like if you look at like the core administrative projects, right? The key components are like, or not the core ones, the key projects, right? The community, I'll just say it, the community elections, right? The community elections, I think, are one of the most important systems, and it directly relates to both outreach, engagement, you know, networking, as well as prioritization and unification. Because through prioritization, we can unify, right? And from there, we can, you know, fundraise and all that stuff. So I really feel like for me, the Unity elections, from what you just said, the community elections are the primary thing. The other cool thing about them is it directly relates to Idea Fund, it directly relates to crowdfunding, it directly relates to all the work that we're doing with Yay Say and Crowdwill and Give Life to Art, right? So for me, the community elections directly, and it relates, it's interconnecting. It's one of the most interconnecting programs that we have, besides like, what's the other one that I want to make sure is listed? Project Ambassador. So Project Ambassador is also a big one that links to like everything. So anyways, my point is simply that what I feel like we need to do, or one of the things that we need to do, I'm just gonna put this right onto the Mars plan, is to integrate existing movements, specifically like Black Lives Matter, Truth, the Truth movement, the sustainability movement, and other movements, right, that are actively, and get them active within the community elections and our planning. Because remember, the community elections directly relates to the plan. So if someone goes and they read the comprehensive plan, or they go to the community elections, or they go to like the Mars plan or whatever, and boom, right there, it's like their organization is in black and white, and we're already talking about their goals and their, like boom, Black Lives Matter. These are the goals of Black Lives Matter. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to help them. I think people are going to be very impressed with that. So I think that's going to be a key component to engaging people and engaging the masses, is so that basically when they come to the Unity network, they already see what they're looking at. Don't you think that's going to help?
Yeah.
Nice.
By the way, Kimberly, the organizer of Black Lives Matter, who also lives at St. Elmo Village.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who worked on that, and it's not too hard to get in touch with them. But again, it's not necessarily about, I mean, talking to someone in Black Lives Matter would either be like an organizational format, or it would be, a network, like, Black Lives Matter network. At some point we'll be ready for that. But if we can just integrate them into our planning, into our vision, I think that'll be enough to, as word spreads, people will see that and want to keep continuing to connect. But I mean, if I went and talked to like a leader of Black Lives Matter, I could tell them about the vision of the Unity and the vision of our goals and what we want to do. But really their only option would be for them to come help us. And when you're talking to a leader,
like the flag, I know you have multiple versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something that could occur at each special event, like Mars and Series, that only happen once in a while, is collectively determining what the most important non-social movements of the year are. And so having a rotation of certain flags that only change very rarely, like astrological events, and certain ones that happen weekly, like during astrological events, and some that happen monthly, and each one can kind of provide the navigation of the website to provide support. You could basically be if we did a beta on the website, it would be like a social networking site where the community gather around topics. So we can provide a dedicated page on our homepage if we determine that Black Lives Matter is one of the most important movements this year, and it will be on our homepage all year for people to organize around it.
Definitely. I mean, we don't need to set up like our own social network, because we can use the existing networks that already exist, right? But yeah, so connecting the work that we're doing and showing the priorities based on our community is exactly what we're talking about. So if we go, for example, to the Mars elections, right? The what we call the external support programs, right? So this would be external support. So this would be like, we want to create resources within the Unity network to externally support, for example, Black Lives Matter or Fight for 15 or like the Global Truth Movement or the Global Disclosure Movement, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an internal program of the Unity network to support an external organization or network, right? So in that context, that's what we're going for. That we want to make sure that, I haven't finished the Mars elections yet, but for the future ones, we will have a section in there, and maybe we even want it at the very top, because I think that putting the internal program at the top is very boring. It's like, who cares about fundraising, right? They're really, really important, but I think it's fun to engage people with a bunch of things they know. So if they read right off the top the biggest movements of the entire world right now, like the gay rights movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, I think that would really engage people, because then we'd be prioritizing these movements and people would see them. And it has to include, for example, the 2016 US elections, right? As well as elections in other countries. So cool. I think we're definitely on the same page there. The other thing that you were mentioning that I didn't quite understand was the idea of connecting the Unity flag to that. For one, the Unity flag is totally interactive and is really a subset of the Unity elections. I mean, it's really just, instead of voting on ideas, you're voting on images, and you're prioritizing images and symbols instead of ideas and projects and programs. So yes, we could have versions of the Unity flag that happened more often that would lead up into the more important, like the primary ones, etc. But the biggest problem with that is the printing. We wouldn't be able to, really at this point in time, I'm looking at printing the Unity flag once a year.
That's fine. You don't have to print it. Like, we can just put out an open source design, and people can print it out however they want for whatever activist events they're going to.
Cool. All right. Well, that sounds good. We can just kind of have it'd be like a draft. It would be a draft. This is where it is for this week in the draft, and this is how that would look if you interconnect it with the voting from before. And then you can see the evolution of the Unity flag from month to month.
Exactly, and it's something we could feel like documenting, but also helping channel people's attention to, whatever is most promising at the moment and most needed, depending on global dynamics. Like, all of a sudden, Syria might pop up onto the flag, and all of our...
How would Syria pop onto the flag again? What was that?
So the Human Union is all about, like, supporting people in humanity in their time of need through solidarity. And it's occurring to me more and more that the solidarity and the citizenship that we seek is going to have to occur online. So with the shifting of humans like Syria, it's in a moment of need right now with the rescue. So we want people to draw their attention to that, and that could be, the purpose of the Unity flag is to channel people's efforts on a urgency-based manner, shifting the people's focus, basically putting out people's radar.
Well, one thing I'm hearing from you, which is interesting. I mean, the idea of Syria being on the Unity flag just doesn't make sense. I mean, the Unity flag is specifically for images and symbols that represent entire movements. But you could be alluding to something new. I'm not sure how much of a priority we want to make it, but the idea is that, with the Unity flag, you could only input images that are very, very specific. I mean, they're specific to a movement. They're specific to goals, and that they also have to be uncopyrighted, right? So basically, what I'm hearing you say. Well, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter. The key is that you're talking about an image, and the image is what's powerful, right? So I think what we want to do is we want to create a new program that's not the Unity flag, that's based on exactly the same principle as the Unity flag and the same principle as the community elections, except it's based on images, and anyone can input any image, whether it's Syria or whether it's a flag or whether it's just a picture of a boy, or it comes to the media or they took it themselves. I mean, it doesn't matter where the image comes from, but we could prioritize these images and create these mosaics that would be very, very powerful, and they would change over time. So, so I think that's a really good idea. I'm not sure what to call it yet, but we'll figure it out. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's finish up here. I think we're ready.
How can we help people that are coming to say walk through bar that someone from Fast Lives Matter, and you have someone from 360.org environment, how does Unity Network unify them so that they can help each other despite their differences?
Well, obviously the number one way is, through the prioritization process. We're basically taking all of these movements, and like the concept is very simple. We're saying that at any one point in time that we can take all of our efforts, like if we have 15 different movements, or let's just say 5, we have all these 5 movements, we intercombine all our resources and do one specific thing together and get it done, that it can help all of the other movements that are interconnected to it. So that's the idea of Unity, right? It's basically just power in numbers, Obviously, we also do the entrepreneurial support services, where we can actually support them in their organizing. We can do trainings, we can do support coordination, we can oversee people's financial problems, that they're having financial issues, and all of that stuff.
They all have structural anxiety.
Yeah.
Whatever cause it is, their organizing tactics will need to be following the same environment.
I'm not sure if I quite understood the last part, but every organization, every network, every group is going to have issues that arise, and where we would be willing to help them. The problem right now is that we just don't have any resources. Like the Unity network is very small. We don't have any resources. We need help from other people, right? So that we can get started. But once we are active and starting, and even with very, very minimal resources, I mean, some of these organizations have millions of dollars, and some of these movements have hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's like, with $10,000, I think we'll be able to literally put on the entire Unity day, right? So that would include events all across the world where the primary goal is simply to acknowledge that we need to come together, reminding everybody once a year, through Unity, we can empower each other and actually succeed where we haven't succeeded before. So that message alone is extremely powerful and extremely valuable. And the weirdest thing about it is that no one else is saying it. I mean, people say it here and there off and on, but there's no really support and backing of it, like a whole full global structure of people making that happen, that is fully empowered, fully interactive, fully participatory, where people can get involved and take on positions and start voting the day they get involved, So, yeah, anyways, I think we're on the right track. I think it's all going to come together. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up. Are we pretty much on the same page, or?
Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. So for you and me, the America session, because we do the World America sessions next Unity Q&As at the same time. This is Monday the 23rd. You want to know what time it is our time? Let's see here. And anyways, I'm going to start checking out. I thought this call really well. I'm a little bummed that Claudia disappeared, but she had been going for like 2.5 hours or 3 hours. She's usually not used to that. Probably pretty new for her. But anyways, she's awesome. I really like Claudia. I think she's going to be a great person to be collaborating with. So let's see. So the 23rd is going to be at 12 o'clock p.m. Do you think that could work with you? The next Americas session is 12 o'clock p.m. on Monday. Yeah. So if we want to do that, we can. There's also the full moon on Wednesday at 2:30. So either of those times could be a good next time to connect during the times that you had signed up for.
I'd like to see live stream a lot. That's very cool. So where does the MP3 come from?
That would be from the downloading the audio from the conference call recording.
Okay, so you connected the call with the Google group?
There's no Google group.
I mean the Google Hangout?
Well, we have the live broadcast, which is the Google Hangout, and we have the phone recording.
But they're combined together.
Well, they're two separate recordings.
All right.
Yeah, but they're both recording the same audio.
Right.
Although it's going to sound a little weird.
I mean, once the meeting closes, will YouTube save the video or does it go up?
It'll have the video there forever on YouTube.
Cool. Yeah. I don't see any yet. This will be the first one.
Yeah, I mean you can. No, there's a video from the primary session we had last time.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is our second video for the primary planetary sessions, and we also have a lot of. You should be able to watch the live version right now. It should be on there right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So we're good. So let's see. So we have that next week. So do you want? I'll remind you for both the Monday and the Wednesday session next week. And what's this? Yeah. There's also Lunar Dissension on Friday, which I don't know how exciting that is. Anyways, so next week a bunch of stuff coming up, and then there's not as much coming up for the rest of the month. But I'll keep you in touch of all the sessions that you signed up for. And we can slowly see how this all evolves, and we're getting a lot more people involved over time for sure. Cool. So I think we're good. The only other thing I'll mention is that, if we can figure out some products for both the Human Union of World Players as well as the Unity Network and do like a combined marketing, that could potentially be a good idea. I would even be down to do coordinated, where we could go table together, at an event in Stanford or a farmer's market or whatever, even go to farmer's market San Jose, and go together. Anyways, that would be another thing that we could think about.
I think that the Human Union is a great point of initiation for someone to become part of the Unity Network. Like the Unity Network is the number one idea as a big thing. So naturally, we want to involve anyone who takes the Human Union pledge with the Unity Network. So I think expanding the membership of the Human Union is a good step, but more importantly, practicing, thinking, and this dream vision for me is like retrofitting a hydrogen bus to serve as a conference room similar to like what you would see at 10 sit down here, where it's like translation services and microphones and recording and computers, where we would go to events or anywhere really that we could get 10 conscious individuals together to create a note and put it on the record as a session.
Definitely
really build awareness through a viral campaign that just shows that we have a bus. Like the reason Lava May is so successful is because they have a very iconic bus that just photographs very well all throughout the San Francisco.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm down with the concept. You know, yeah, I'm down with the concept. Like, obviously, I don't have any funds for a bus, but as far as the Unity network is concerned, like, anytime the human union wants to do a session at a, you know, basically at a scheduled Unity time, right? Then the human union can have a human union think tank meeting inside a Unity session. For example, like, let's just look at the Mars session next year. Like, the Mars session next year can have a component of it, for example, like a half an hour of the agenda can be the human union think tank, where we do a human union think tank activity. Right? But it doesn't have to be the Mars session. It could be the Ceres session coming up, or the Earth session. Like, those are coming up in January. So in that context, as long as the human union is down to stick to the schedule of the Unity network, it can do any session it wants to within the Unity network timeframes. But if the human union wants to do it separately, externally from it would just be a separate thing. And the Unity network can be involved in it, and individuals can be involved in it, but it just wouldn't be part of the Unity network communication systems. Does that sort of make sense? Like, the thing that makes the Unity network different, and the thing that we want to stick to, especially when we're doing outreach and marketing, all that stuff, is the Unity sessions and the Unity activities that are going on. You know, so we just want to have it really simple and clear, because it's so complicated already, right? So we want, when we're doing and engaging people, we want to try to stick to the parameters of the systems that are set out specifically for the Unity network. I mean, it's just one strategic model, right? So anyways, obviously I'll continue to help the human union as much as possible, but we would have to have a discussion about how we would want to evolve it in the context of a budgetary restraints that we have. And right now we don't have a dime for the human union.
Yeah, but we fixated to ourselves that we have to organize and have human union dinner ceremony. So in that sense, like, the human union is active, at least in the for-profit component of our thinking. So
Definitely.
we just organize similar initiatives. I see that as a very scalable idea. Just organizing an annual event for companies to present their corporate impact and give out awards in the industry for FDCs. I think that is enough in itself to make a name for ourselves, because there's something about distributing yourself the authority to give awards that legitimizes you, no matter who you are. And then doing something similar to nonprofits would just be like presenting annual reports for nonprofits. And then a government project, those will be a little trickier, but if we can simply organize some kind of annual thing for each one, then we're in business.
Definitely, yeah. So we're at time. I need to get going here. If you want to check out real quick, that'll be really helpful for the video. And then as far as, just so you know where it fits in, like, Say is a network sponsored, is going to be a network sponsored program, right? The human union would still be what we call an external support or externally influenced organization. Yeah, and so the human union is still integrated into the Unity network systems. At every single Unity network meeting scheduled, we can bring up the human union as much as we want to. I mean, that's you know, everything can be totally integrated, and as more people get involved, we'll prioritize things, and we'll just see where the human union sinks into the different priority lists. Sweet. So do you want to check out real quick? I kind of checked out. I thought this meeting went really good. I'm really the Mars session is at right now, and I can just see 1 year it's going to be so much more and so much more interconnected and just amazing. You know, there'll be more people involved, and I feel like once the plan is completed, it'll be huge. So like moving into the Venus session, as well as the Ceres session coming up at the beginning of January, I just don't see anything but good things happening. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. It was good to Claudia. I'm really excited about how the technological project so the need such a thing will also one transparent movement
Ever. Exactly. We are the most transparent movement ever. I love that.
That is how we really hope to figure it out. And so as long as we can keep up with that, and we need to reach
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah, fun to see the results the next discussion. Hope we can get to that knowledge.
Yeah, oh, it'll happen. And, you know, I already have, like, you know, especially with the work I did with you, you know, we did a lot of fundraising there. So I put aside, I mean, I feel like we're at least at the 5,000 mark. I mean, once we get one of these plans done, like hopefully the Venus plan will come together a little better. But my hope is to have all of the finances, all transparent, everything laid out, really clear, as well as the budgets. So I have some draft budgets and financial stuff together, but I want to get it all really pretty and finalized. So hopefully that'll happen. Definitely by the series session, we should have some pretty hardcore sections. But I'm pretty sure we're, I mean, the whole organization, I mean, the whole network, we have, you know, I don't know exactly how much money we actually have, but the entire network has a $70,000 annual budget. And so it's just a matter of, you know, figuring out how to support it and then grow.
Well, it's like the project is helping. They are successful in their table benefit. So, I'm a for example, you never know when one of your the promotion for the allocation of the equity you mentioned, that'll be black. I don't mention it. We only have 3 computers, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to track down all 10, but it's all, even if we have to choose 7% off the bat, we'll get that $50 credit to top computers and to the Unity Network campaigns, and that'll be a nice step in the right direction. And if there is leftover money, then we can just launch another similar campaign. Hopefully we can have it on somehow or another. We can just keep the promotions going as a way to help scale things as the Unity Network.
Nice, nice. And, you know, we'll talk more about some of the marketing and stuff like that, but I really feel that one of the primary marketing strategies is going to be, especially on social media blasting, is going to be blasting out the Unity Network question and answer introductory sessions, because in that people will feel comfortable getting involved in something that is clearly laid out for them. They'll be like, hey, do you want more information? They'll be like, yes, I want more information. This looks really cool. And then they'll come on those sessions, and then they'll get engaged, and it's a really good entry point. So there's a whole variety of those coming up. I should link more information on that. I wonder if I have that anywhere here. You can see them on the calendar as well, but we can definitely, oh, here we go. So Unity Intro Q&A calendar. So there's next Monday, and then there's next Wednesday for the full moon and the lunar perigee, and then there's a 3 in December. So there's about 4 or 5 a month. But I'll add that to my list as next steps here, and that could be somewhere where we could collaborate on. All right, so I should get going here, but good work. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, Claudia, for being here. Claudia was awesome. And we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.